Welcome everyone to MFA's Small Wonders 2025 Virtual Awards Ceremony. My name is Eleanor Woodbury. I am the brand new exhibitions manager here at MFA. I'm joined by Juliana Oakes. She's doing technical support over at Circle Gallery. A little bit about MFA is that we're a virtual arts nonprofit organization that hosts more than 40 exhibitions every year. Our mission is to make connections in the local and online communities through art with exhibits and events in Circle Gallery in Annapolis, Maryland, online, and in numerous alternative venues. We provide artists of all genres, media, and backgrounds with the opportunity to exhibit works selected by professionally credentialed jurors to be recognized with monetary awards. So artists don't have to be members to enter in our exhibitions, though they do have several advantages like lesser entry fees, access to networking, and additional exhibition opportunities. So if you're interested in learning more about becoming a member, please visit our website. A little bit about Small Wonders. Life is full of little things that can make a big impact. So those little details that come together to form a bigger picture, or in this case, an exhibition of small but wonderful works. This show was for artwork limited to under 11 inches in all directions. But of course, there was no limit on creativity or media. Maryland Federation of Art invited all artists residing in any of the states or territories of the United States, Canada, or Mexico to enter in our 22nd annual Small Wonders exhibition. All original artwork, 3D or 2D, under 11 inches in all directions, including the frame and display, were considered for this exhibition. Works selected by our juror will be exhibited in MFA's Circle Gallery from November 26th through December 21st. Joining us today is our juror, Dr. Elisabeth Nogrady. She's the chief curator at the Leidan Collection in New York. As curator of the Leidan Collection, Elisabeth Nogrady collaborates with institutions nationally and internationally. She contributes to the scholarly online catalog and supports the Leidan Collection's commitment to educational outreach. Elisabeth began studying Dutch 17th century art as an undergraduate at Vassar College in Poughkeepsie, New York, and went on to receive an MA in art history from the University of Maryland, College Park, and a PhD from the Institute of Fine Arts, New York University. She served as a fellow at the Morgan Library and Museum at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and was a specialist in old master paintings at Christie's. Before coming to the Leidan Collection in 2023, she was the Andrew W. Melling Curator of the academic programs at Vassar's Loeb Art Center. So welcome, Elisabeth, Dr. Elisabeth Nogrady. I am opening the floor up to you if you want to say some words.
Thank you so much, Eleanor and Amani, also for inviting me to be a juror for this just incredible exhibition. It was really a fascinating process and one I really enjoyed and just had so much admiration for the artists and their submissions. I will say, at first I was thinking, as some of you may or may not know, the Leiden Collection is a private collection of Dutch 17th century paintings exclusively. Before that, I had been more of a generalist working at Vassar's Loeb Art Center, but these days I'm sort of Dutch art all the time. And I was thinking, I'm in the 17th, my head's in the 17th century most of the time. Why would they want me for that, to look at these contemporary artists? But then when I read more about the topic and looked at the works, I really the theme of small wonders really resonated for me. Well, and if anyone's exactly my age in their 40s, they may remember a sitcom about a girl robot called Small Wonder. But then I read the description of the show, and I was thinking more about Dutch 17th century paintings and how so many of them are so small and they have this sense of intimacy and the high degree of technique and technical skill that it takes to work on a small format is something that is just so incredible. And I was also, one thing that really struck me about the groups of works is thinking about that idea of wonder and how it can hit you in so many different ways. Coming at it from this sort of early modern perspective, this was a time when people were looking to the sky. They were just making discoveries about the planets, about the stars, but then they were also looking in microscopes and the whole world was opening up in terms of these microscopic creatures. And there was a sense of wonder in the minute and also in the vastness of the universe. And so I was trying to think about that kind of dichotomy when I went in to look at these works. And again, maybe I'm making too many connections to the 17th century, but so much contemporary art today seems to be about getting bigger and bigger and bigger in terms of the format. You'll walk into almost an airplane hangar with enormous paintings, but I still think there's something so special about encountering a small work of art because I think you could argue it demands more of you. You need to use your powers of observation. You need to stop and look. You can't just walk on by. You need to have that exchange, again, that intimacy with the smaller works. And that's something that I really valued in these. And then I'd say, as a group, in not just the individual submissions, but as a group, I really did try to, as I was making the jury selections, there were many works that I thought were incredible, but I really aimed to focus on those ones that I thought were small wonders. And that took some different formats. It was, again, that sense of awe, that sense of mystery, I noticed was sort of something I was gravitating to over and over. But then there were also sort of the small moments in the everyday when we see something beautiful, something we love, the simple pleasures. So in that way, it's almost the again, a dichotomy, not the sort of awe of the universe, but rather these small moments as we go through life. And when artists capture those, I think it can really resonate with the rest of us and make us stop and see a shell on the beach or even see something, a homey kitchen, just again, a small moment rather than um, something that is a mystery of the universe. So I had again those sort of two things pulling at me. And then I also wanted to, I was so impressed with the group and the number of different techniques, whether it was works on paper, oil painting, sculpture, found object assemblage works, ceramics, embroidery. And I really tried to create that sense that many, many, many different materials could be used to create these works. And I tried to reflect that to some degree in the selections that I made. Just to extend on that idea of technique, I also really loved the works where I felt like the human hand, the artist's touch, that sort of authentic feeling of creation was coming through in the small format because we all know how challenging that can be. And so that idea of sort of handicraft and not just fine art necessarily, but makers of all different types really using their skills to create these small works was another uh, thing I kept in mind in addition to the outline set forth for the submissions in terms of the requirements and so forth. So I just wanted to say what a pleasure and honor it was, and I really enjoyed the process. And thank you all very much. In terms of honorable mention, Elizabeth Lee's Three Little Roses. This one, uh, again, it's probably some of that sort of Dutch still life attraction coming out here. But this one was so small, 6 by 6. I thought that was just incredible to bring it almost even smaller than life size. And in this sort of world of these enormous contemporary artworks, I thought perhaps the artist wouldn't say this at all. I saw something almost subversive in doing such a tiny traditional still life that still had such um, uh, again, you could really see that hand of the artist, that sort of loose brushwork, impasto, but in a very controlled manner that I really appreciated. Robert Hunter's An Infinite Mystery. Here was that idea of mystery that I talked about. And again, in a very small format, you feel as though this whole world is opening up. And as the viewer, you can sort of we have the silhouetted figure looking at the light through the woods, and we can use our imaginations to some degree to what world is out there and what's in the fog or the mist or the sunrise or the sunset. And is there's sort of a sense of for me almost unease. It would. But in a way that I found so engaging and just really sparked curiosity in me. Here we have Warren Chambers, Interlaced Spine. Um, again, I'll say this one is one that almost left me with a sense of discomfort thinking about that feeling of spine and metal uh, and using the X-ray film. I just, I don't know, it was almost a medical kind of sensation. But I thought at the same time, it had just this incredible beauty. And the idea of using these very hard, and I'm guessing hard to work with materials in this small format was something where I just saw a lot of concentrated power. Here we have Sandra Emme, pardon me if I'm mispronouncing that, Sandra, composition number 17. This one was one that just made me want to pick up a pencil and watercolor. I really felt that the power of creation was kind of emanating from this small format. And again, abstraction usually you associate it with larger scale, and I thought just sort of paring it down and using this sort of buff background with the primary colors and the white, I just found it to be a very powerful statement in a small package. Here we have Elisabeth Running's Wander. This is again going back to that idea of sort of stopping to smell the slugs and really appreciating just the incredible things that are around us all the time if we stop and notice them. And also with the porcelain and walnut, I thought the materials were just very beautiful. And you almost it's not an enormous equestrian sculpture in front of a municipal building. It's a tiny little slug, but it's given this presentation that's almost feels monumental, even as it's so small. Jihae Kwon. This one, I in the dark. I loved the interactive nature of it. I thought that that was so creative, and I thought it really also encapsulated not only is it small scale, but that feeling of flipping through the prints and the paintings that you had this feeling of what's next, what's next, what's next. That I thought again really hit on the theme perfectly. Oh, and here we are in the Jurors Choice group. I thought this one was just really exceptional in its simplicity, but um, but nonetheless creating um, a very tangible impact that really spoke to me. Our next juror's choice, Karen Schulz, The Collection. Um, this was another one where I felt that sense of in the small format and using abstraction, there was such weight to this work. And I felt as though you could go into it. I felt like it was coming out at you. Um, that it's creating its own sort of universe and language that for me really did spark wonder. Um, and I also just thought was very beautiful. This was one where I felt like you could look at it for a long time, start to notice different details, different types of mark making and line. Um, yeah, that really resonated with me. And here we have Best in Show, Amy Evans, Layers of Time 2. This is one that I thought really hit for me, both of those notes that I was, all three of those notes that I was looking for in terms of the simplicity of it, using this simple fabric and string that's something we might see um, lying around, just on a street, on a sidewalk, or just a piece of fabric. But she has seen in it, or Amy has seen in it, this other possibility, this other world, traces of the past. For me, it had sort of a nostalgic look to it, almost the way that the figures exist, but then start to disintegrate as the weave is pulled apart. And so it did open up this world of mystery and wonder, and I also really appreciated how it had this sort of sculptural quality with the string that feels almost tactile, but in the medium of photography. So it really had um, the simplicity, but also that sense of awe, and then also that really fascinating technique that for me, really hit on that those ideas of the small wonder.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much. Your insight was very, very interesting. So we've got, of course, the list of the awards, and also this is a little snapshot of some of the artworks from this show. There were so many different styles and media, and it's a very, very robust show. So this collage gives a little bit of an idea of what kind of works are in the show. So Of course, I think a lot of our viewers are in our show, but if you haven't checked it out, please check us out online or in the gallery. It's an amazing show. It really is beautifully curated, as well. So for a little bit of Q&A, we can open that up for everybody, but I can start with a question. I noticed a lot of your choices were abstract, abstract works, and from your background with Dutch paintings, that seems very, very different. That you have sort of a wide range of interests. So has abstract work been an interest of yours?
Well, I think that's sort of funny that you say that because I did somewhat do that intentionally because I think my sort of since I began going to museums and studying art history quite a while ago now, I've gravitated more towards naturalism, realism in terms of what to study. But when it comes to what I appreciate, I'd say on a more sort of visceral, emotional level. It was abstraction. And then during my time at Vassar, when I was there for almost 10 years, I did, as I said, a little bit of everything. And I think my appreciation and understanding of abstraction grew at that time. I do think that for me personally, when I'm thinking about that sense of wonder, it is something that comes from abstraction for me because it's one way that so many artists sort of translate the untranslatable for us in a visual form. And I found that very powerful.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, in my personal experience, I'm an artist as well. I do a lot of, um, figurative, representational work, but I really am so drawn to abstract artwork. There's that sense of wonder again. Something that I've never figured out how to orchestrate in my own artwork. I love seeing it. I love seeing other people's abstract work because it's also subjective. It really leaves it up to the viewer, which is there's nothing more, um, I guess, wonderful than that. I see we have Warren Chambers, one of our award winners. I actually would like to ask a little bit about the meaning behind your work. Like, Dr. Nogrady said, uh, she was getting sort of a surgical vibe to it. Was that intentional?
Uh, Not really, but that was kind of
Okay.
the result. So it is interesting because I have my wife and my daughter are both in radiation, work in the radiation oncology field, and years and years ago, my wife had brought back some exposed and unexposed X-ray films, so I've been using them for a while. And in this case, it was really if I was going to be able to pull off the manipulation of the lead and create the all the holes perfectly, to then put in the metal rods and then make it all work it was kind of a fun challenge. And then then I used a couple different things for the spine to come up with the spine. But then when I did weave it, it all came together, and I was like, wow, that really does work under that scenario. So yeah, it was really a fun piece to make. Not it does come off rather severe, not meant to be. Most of my stuff is pretty whimsical. That came across a little bit severe, but it was really fun to it was a fun challenge to see if I could do it and keep it all in control with so many variables. So that was what was a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And thank you for choosing it.
When you look at the photo, you might think it was, 3 feet by 4 feet or something. So
No,
yeah, that I had a feeling that that the manipulation of the materials was a challenge.
yeah, and but a fun challenge. So it's just neat ways to keep attacking the media. So it's a lot of fun.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
for sharing.
I have a question, if I could.
Sure.
It's for Miss Pennypacker. I see she's in here somewhere. If she's available, I'd love to ask about your work, Miss Pennypacker. Um, your piece, Fired Earth, specifically. Just from reading the description, it was interesting. You mentioned that you reimagined a 16th century Italian technique of scagliola. Um, I'm curious to know how was it that you reimagined that ancient technique, and like what element of your own style did you bring into it?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for asking. Um, I think more traditionally, there's a certain palette, and you do different techniques like marbling, or it's more for architecture or interior design. So for me, I like to either change up the palette or use surprising materials and different textures. Yeah.
Okay, the reason I ask is so there was our last show Transformed, Melanie Berry, one of the artists, she mentioned that she kind of reimagined the way that she does mosaic. But in the reimagining of it, it's almost like it's she
Can
didn't
you
say
hear
that it lost kind of the traditional aspect of it, but she can't call it traditional anymore. So would you be able to call your stuff, or has it taken on a new name, I guess, or just style?
I think the process is what stays traditional, but the outcome and the composition changes.
Okay, interesting. Thank you for your insight.
Thank you.
Sandra's also here, Sandra Emme. If Julie, if you could pull up her works. I was really curious about these two works next to each other. Of course, composition number 17, that was the one that won the award, but I kind of they look very different to me. One looks very almost representational in a way, and the other one is definitely more abstract. And I'd love to hear any words you've got, Sandra.
As I mentioned, the disarray one was from a sketchbook, and I was just playing with colors and forms and didn't really care. And then when I was looking for something to enter, I would take the size mat that I needed, and I put it, over the sketchbook to try to find something, and this is what I found. I have very excellent teachers, and one of them is always emphasizing if you put two dots on something, it becomes eyes. They become eyes. And you can put eyes on a lot of things, rocks and various natural forms and abstract forms. But that was from a sketchbook.
Okay, so it was a much larger piece.
Well,
You may
larger
have
by
cropped.
maybe a 5 by 5 sketchbook.
Okay.
So it wasn't a large sketchbook. And I was
Gotcha.
working with acrylics and trying to make different marks with markers and acrylics. So
Yeah.
thank you for choosing that for the show.
Yeah, they're great pieces. These are great. And now that you mention the eyes, I definitely see a bird, off to the right there.
Yeah, if you do want to make eyes, don't put two dots together because they will become eyes to the viewer.
Hmm.
Eleanor, I was just thinking about what you said about abstraction, and while I was making these selections, we were installing our the Leidan Collection exhibition at the Norton Museum of Art in West Palm Beach, Florida, and I was
Okay.
spending most of my days condition reporting. So I was, looking at the works to make sure nothing had changed in transit, but I had the magnifiers like the loop on, and I was in so deep with the strokes. I wasn't even really looking at the works. I was looking at these sort of 1 inch sections of them at a time. And I'm in saying about the abstraction, and then even hearing myself sort of talk about like, zoning in. I wonder if that sort of way I was spending my days, and that state of mind that I was in was maybe did impact it somewhat, and again gave me that renewed appreciation for the beauty and also the risk and the difficulty of making those marks and art making.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And you chose, what is it, 120 something works from 440 ec- uh, entries, which is absolutely amazing. it seriously is quite a feat, I'll have to say. Was there anything that you were looking for in particular? You had said that you kind of wanted a range of artworks, that you could really see the artist's hand. Is there something that just like, I don't know, just clicked with you? You were like, I want that in this exhibition.
Um, well, as I was sort of getting at before, I have the things that I naturally gravitate towards, but then I was also challenging myself to say, like, what isn't your taste necessarily, but what's good? And I feel like, again, my time at Vassar, both working with students and with an encyclopedic collection, I really became happily more familiar with many, many different types of things. So I definitely drew from that experience, I would say. And there was also sort of, it almost felt like writing in some sense um, where I was, the editing was kind of part of the process where I was just honing and honing and honing the group, both looking at them individually and this idea of what works were in conversation with one another, different materials, and yeah, some of those other aspects that I mentioned.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Something I will mention, the exhibitions team who put up the show did an amazing job. Uh, they did something that was really interesting to me. They sort of grouped things um, by color a little bit. As I've walked around, that was something that I noticed that's, where they put things, which I think was a really neat way to exhibit everything. Because you had picked such a colorful exhibit. So I'll just say that if you happen to see the show in person, of course you're in New York. It's a little far. But the show is so amazingly put together and everything fits really beautifully together.
Making small works isn't always easy because even if they're very powerful, it doesn't always mean they're going to attract someone's attention from, across the room because they do benefit from those closer encounters. So I appreciate that challenge and I'm so glad to hear that. Hopefully I will make it down there. I'm so glad to hear that the sort of communal whole impact is really there.
For sure. I mean, it's a small gallery, but having all of those works, the team really made it uh not overwhelming, I think. It really lets each little tiny piece speak for themselves, which I think is um definitely a very tricky task. So they did an amazing job. I may be saying this wrong, but Jihae um is one of our award winners. If you could maybe say a little something about your artwork,
That
maybe a
work also, I
question.
sort of made that connection again with that sort of 17th century idea of science and the lighthouse and nature and um, objects that, again, at least from my point of view, really do spur awe. There's nothing like a lighthouse with thinking about the history and its original function and just the sort of formal beauty of them and the way they oftentimes today feel kind of endangered, especially the more historic ones. Um, so I um, again that work just really spoke to me in terms of the seeing the little structures represented in the work.
Yeah, I think the format of it is really neat as well. Um, that choice to make a little flip book and the way that it folds up is so beautiful. Um, so it's such a cool little piece.
Yeah, it really gives you that feeling of flipping through a box of prints while sort of, yeah, straddling the line with an artist's book in a way I thought was really inventive.
Yeah, exactly. I can't even imagine how long it took to carve each one of um the little wood blocks as well. Very, very cool.
Well, I'll just say a final thanks to all the artists and the organizers and the just such a pleasure. And I feel so privileged to be able to see and really study all your incredible works of art. Thank you.
I'll just say real quick,
Sure.
if folks are out and about for the Midnight Madness is coming up on Thursdays in December downtown Annapolis, that the gallery is open from what's 5 to 7 those evenings.
Yes. Yeah. And the Small Wonders reception, that's going to be on the 4th, this Thursday, this coming Thursday. And that will be from 6 to 8. So actually, I think we close at 8 on the Midnight Madness days. Um, but yeah, I hope to see a lot of you there. Say hi. Thank you everyone for tuning in. And definitely if you want to revisit this talk, it'll be on YouTube in the next few days. So until then, I'll see you guys.